Scott, do you have a question for Jeff Brom?
I do. Jeff Brom. I don't have a question for Jeff Brom. Jeff Brom. Jeff Brom. So the Colorado Buffalo are looking for a new baseball coach there, and Deion Sanders is on staff as their football coach. Now, Deion Sanders is known as a two-way player for football and baseball in his heyday, playing for the Yankees, playing for the Braves. Could you see in a world where Deion Sanders pulls the funniest thing and he becomes the head coach of the baseball team as well?
Well, let me answer that question by asking you two questions. One, is this or is this not the XFL? Yes, it is. Two, do I or do I not currently have a pulse? Yes, I do. Let's play football.
That's right, folks. Thank you, Vin Diesel, for always singing us into this show. It is the Sunday Hangover on the 323. I am your host, Reid Murphy, joined by two handsome devils themselves. We have the host of the 323's College Shame Day, Scott Ellia, and we have the host of the Animation Deliberation Podcast with Luis Martinez as his hat, Zuhair Ali. Hello, boys. How are you doing? Let's see if you talk over each other. Oh, it made them silent and uncomfortable. They don't know what to do.
Oh, well, I guess I'll talk first since we're recording on January 6th. So happy anniversary, everybody.
Oh.
But I'm doing great. I wish I would have took the extra second during our pre-production meeting we had there for a second to get a drink, because I am now parched.
Well, you can go grab a drink real quick. Look at that.
I don't need you to tell me what to do.
Oh, shit.
You need my ma'am.
That's even scarier when it's just coming from the picture. Zoo, how are you doing today on this Victory Monday?
Doing pretty good. Started to kick in the resolutions and get some workouts in this morning, which I am not a morning person, so, running on 4 hours of sleep, but 12 win, baby. That'll keep me up this week.
That's right. The fucking Commanders.
The fucking Commanders.
12 wins for them. 12 wins. Everybody that's live
So happy to play the Eagles.
talking in this broadcast right here, not the picture of Luis in the corner. Apologies to him, but we're all winners here. We're winners, baby. We just win. Man, it's a time, and we're going to be doing we're going to give you a lot. We're not going to do a full playoff preview. We'll save that for Ricks versus Gricks and picking those games, getting into Wild Card Weekend. But we're going to talk quite a bit we'll get through a little bit of a double show with Black Monday firings that are up to the minute that we are here. And, NFL coaches, GMs fired, or those that aren't, is probably the biggest storyline today. Also, we'll talk a little bit about the NFL draft. The order is set, so we will break it down a little bit, our expectations for it. Scott Ellia, the College Shame Day expert, he will be breaking down what these teams need and who they can go for in these top 15 spots, which will provide a nice transition to the other half of our little double show here. We'll get into College Shame Day. College Shame Day at a different time on a snow day, a nice little snow day here in Virginia, or for some of us in Virginia, where Scott will break down what happened in the quarterfinals, how it'll impact the semifinals, and all our expectations and picks going into that before those games start on a Thursday, which is kind of weird. And because it's snowing here, at least where I'm at, I get to play this sound, one of my favorites.
It's snowing in California. God damn it. It's in the streets. God damn.
I can't wait for that to be me when I go out to shovel. Oh, it's going to be a mess. But hey, like I said, NFL regular season is over. We are moving to the postseason, moving to the playoffs, but only a particular amount of us are going to be doing that. There are plenty of teams that are left behind that are going to have to deal with their own fallout, to deal with their own failures. And just so far, we have had plenty of firings going in on this Monday. But honestly, for me, I don't know about for you guys and how you felt about it, but it's been a lot less than I expected, I think. And there's been quite a few surprises. So far, head coach openings that we have official are the New York Jets. They fired midseason. New Orleans Saints, Chicago Bears, they all fired midseason. New England Patriots were the first team they fired yesterday afternoon, as right after they won. They won their game yesterday, but was not enough for head coach Jerod Mayo. He is fired after one season with the team, went 4-13. Also, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they fired their head coach Doug Pederson after, I think, what has it been, 3 years with that team? Yeah. So rough times for him. The Cleveland Browns, they also fired their offensive coordinator. The Cincinnati Bengals fired their defensive coordinator. Lou Anarumo he was a head coach that I remember for a few years. That took a turn this season. And we had the Seattle Seahawks and Las Vegas Raiders firing their offensive coordinators. Looks like with, certain teams, I mean, the Raiders were one I low-key expected to part ways with their head coach, Antonio Pierce. He's been there about 1.5 seasons. He was their interim coach last year. But if they're having him do press availability and fire parts of his coaching staff, I'm guessing that's a vote of confidence to keep him for the next season. And
wait, who was the coach mid-season that did his presser and then got fired like right after?
That was Matt Eberflus, and that would be a very Raiders thing. It would be a Raiders thing to go about that. There's been no word on the Dallas Cowboys. We know that Mike McCarthy's contract is set to expire, I believe, January 16th.
Yeah, I think it's like 9 days to negotiate, and it's like his whole staff too.
Yeah, and it was very funny that the contract was set that way, because that would have had him without a contract, if they made it past the divisional round of the playoffs. So there was zero expectation for the Cowboys to make it to championship weekend, or else it'd be just
darn it.
It's part of the script.
That's crazy. No word on them. The New York Giants announced that they are going to stick with their head coach and GM, Brian Daboll and Joe Shine, even though John Mara, their owner, they asked him about it today, and he said, they were asking, like, what's the timetable for this now that you're keeping them? He was like, oh, better be pretty quick. Better be pretty quick, because I've just about lost patience. Buddy, today's the day if you lost patience. This is the time to do it.
Also, the number 3 overall pick, you are in need of a quarterback.
Right. The Indianapolis Colts, they also announced that they are going to keep their head coach and GM, Shane Steichen, Chris Ballard.
Yeah,
there's a lot of these that just don't make a particular amount of sense to me, and I'll be curious to get you guys' thoughts. But the ones that kind of blew me away the most were the Jacksonville Jaguars firing Doug Pederson, which I understand. Things are stale. He's a highly loyal coach. Offense wasn't looking great. Press Taylor, I don't believe, is a great offensive coordinator, should have been fired. Pederson wasn't going to do it. But to keep their GM, Trent Baalke, who is somebody I didn't think should have been hired in the first place after what he did with the San Francisco 49ers as their GM, butchered that organization in the process of having a Super Bowl run coach and Jim Harbaugh that he turns into Chip Kelly and Jim Tomsula, fucks all of that up, including a great roster, then heads over to Jacksonville, and you can see all the makings of the same thing, just bullshit pick after bullshit pick with the draft and terrible re-signing processes for his free agents. I thought he should have been fired. The Giants, I can low-key understand with giving another year at least to Daboll.
No one's going to want to go to the Giants. All the like prospective like coordinators coming up and now, and head coaches looking at other jobs. Like, no one's going to want to go to the Giants, especially if their GM's still in place.
And I think that's the case for a lot. And the Colts, like you were saying, they're not going to go anywhere. I don't understand why they didn't make any type of move. I could have kept Steichen, but Chris Ballard's been there for 8 years, and there's been zero progress. You could blame the Andrew Luck retirement at first, but since then, what have you done? Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers, all these Band-Aid kind of players, and nothing's worked for them. You're just watching talent age and waste away. So, what out of Black Monday for you guys so far has been the most surprising, and I guess in terms of things that have happened and things that you thought were going to happen that haven't yet?
The fact that the Giants still have their general manager, like it wasn't even like, hey, we saw what happened in Hard Knocks, but like you showed why you deserve to stick around. It was just a really weird situation. Like people say that they believe, they like playing for Dayball and he's a good coach and this and that. Like I don't see it, but he did have that good run in his first year, so I could see like if they do get the proper quarterback and the right resources and get that O line a little bit stronger, then they could be a decent threat in a year or two to come. But the fact that the GM was still there after everything that went down was really, really odd to me.
Yeah, and I'll go a little north of New York there, and I'll go to Foxborough, and seeing how Jerod Mayo just didn't even get a chance, and Robert Kraft just cutting ties immediately going into next season. I think all signs are pointing to Mike Vrabel, longtime linebacker and true Patriot man. I think that's who Kraft is going to be hiring quickly, because I believe he was asked about it, and he came out and did the whole pandering political answer about feeling terrible for Mayo. Go fuck yourself. No, you didn't. And then secondly, it just all makes too much sense. You're going to get a guy to come in who the fan base is already going to be behind. He's already proven it that he can coach at a high level when he was with the Tennessee Titans. Sputtered out there towards the end of his tenure in Tennessee, but I was just more shocked they pulled the trigger. And you know what? And congratulations to Jerod Mayo for pulling the greatest okey doke on Robert Kraft and winning that last game to get out of the number 1 pick and drop the 4. Congrats to him, man.
Yeah, baller move. It definitely seemed like we like Vrabel more than we dislike what's going on with Mayo. So unfortunate for him, but I'm glad he was able to get that last screw you out.
It is unfortunate. I hate excuse me, I hate one and done years for coaches. It doesn't seem entirely fair. There's been a few where you can see like it's going to be, there's no progress. Yeah, no progress is going to be made. Steve Wilkes was a big one a few years back with the Arizona Cardinals. You could tell there's nothing there. Jerod Mayo, I was genuinely surprised, even though I called for last week in the New Year's resolutions to not settle. I am a little surprised that Kraft didn't, just because he's a homegrown coach. He spent his entire professional life there in New England. Yeah, skin, yeah. Mm-hmm. And it'll probably, I could see him winding up now in like North Carolina with Belichick on that coaching staff, maybe. But it's a little surprising. And yeah, they're going to move quickly. Vrabel's going to be the guy. They're going to have to make a couple of interviews just to satisfy that rule, just to satisfy the Rooney rule and not getting into any type of trouble. But we all know Vrabel's going to go there.
I'm gonna call my shot for Jerod Mayo's landing spot now.
Where?
Not even a day before. I firmly believe that Vikings defensive coordinator Brian Flores will be out of Minnesota. I think he's done enough to get a head coaching job somewhere, and he's going to go join Minnesota and go be their next DC.
How funny would it be if
McConnell.
Salah's been hanging out in Green Bay with his buddy and just ends up taking that Vikings job?
That would be funny.
Or Detroit.
I like Scott calling his shots because I just found one. We don't really use the Sunday hangover soundboard as much, and for some reason this one's just sitting in here, and this could lead to some Colts blowback for him, because this is a prediction Scott gave for the Colts. It says back in February. I guess this was last year. We'll see what's happening here.
Cemented in right now, planting my flag. February 15th. Wow. The Minnesota Vikings are going to be defeating the Indianapolis Colts in Las Vegas for the Super Bowl.
So that was 2 years ago.
Hey, I can always be half right.
Right. So, there's beef. There's been no progress made by the Colts in that situation since. Is there what else do you all think should happen for these teams that have made moves already? What can be done to give them some positive change going into next year? I was going to say for the Jaguars to bring in Ben Johnson from Detroit. Ben Johnson, and it seemed like that was a big place for him. He wanted to go somewhere he could bring his own GM. And there were reports saying that the Jaguars were looking like that kind of a spot. Now they said the interest might be really dead for Ben Johnson to go to the Jacksonville Jaguars because they're still keeping somebody like Baalke. I'm curious if that's blown their chances. I thought he would have been perfect for them and for Trevor Lawrence and try and get something, salvageable out of him.
That would be funny if they're just waiting to hear what Ben Johnson says. So, like, if he says yes, then they fire the GM. Otherwise, just like, we still need somebody.
And I guess moves could still be made because the Miami Dolphins announced yesterday that they're going to retain GM Chris Greer and head coach Mike McDaniels. Sorry. And now there are reports saying that Chris Greer could move up in the position to something like president of football operations or something, just so that he's not getting fired, but also not still in the same position. So maybe we'll see something like that in Jacksonville, especially if they still think they can convince Ben Johnson to come down there.
No, I mean, that's the right move for at least for Miami's sake. I think it's a little too early for Mike McDaniels to be on the hot seat. But I think the analogy that you've brought up is it's clicking. That burner's clicking. I think next year is going to be a huge prove it year for Mike McDaniel. Ben Johnson, I like going to Chicago out of everywhere and seeing what he can do for that offense for the Bears, especially with Caleb Williams and all the weapons that he has around him.
I think that is the best spot for him. I don't see him winding up with the Jets. I can't see many people winding up with the Jets right now. Like the interviews that they've done so far, it almost seems like Mike Vrabel interviewed with them. Rex Ryan is interviewing tomorrow. Yeah, Ron Rivera. Like I'm wondering if it's more of a lot of either retread coaches or coaches that have expectations going to interview them. What's the deal here, Woody? I should come here.
I like the Brian Flores shout for the Jets to stick to Robert Kraft twice a year.
That would be nice. That would be nice. And the Dolphins. And he would get against the Dolphins twice a year. Mm-hmm. Speaking of the Dolphins, before we get into draft talk too, Tyreek Hill. So, is there any you have any desire for Tyreek Hill in DC?
No. I'm good.
Tyreek Hill, the second Miami superstar in a week, to tell his team, "I'm out, bro.
Goodbye."
I don't want to be here." Like that was it was a polite Antonio Brown moment that he had yesterday. It was a very polite Antonio Brown. Any more observations from Week 18 and from the regular season as a whole for you guys, Zoo?
Somebody I was talking to today had a speculation that Tyreek could end up in Houston if they move on from Diggs.
I'm trying to think if that's going to be enough, though. I mean, yes, they got Nico there. They're going to have Tank out for the whole season next year. If they lose Diggs, is that still enough? I mean, I guess
the whole year was a bummer for them. That is
right. I guess the good thing is you're playing in that division. It's just like, do you really need to worry about any other competing? They stumbled into the playoffs this year for Houston. I think they're going to have a really quick 1-round exit this year, but
someone had to do it.
You got to remember too, he's a year removed from being considered by most of us as like the greatest player in the NFL right now. And I think the only reason he wasn't achieving that this year is because he was just checked out. I really believe he completely checked out when Tua got concussed.
Yeah.
Listen, you got to put yourself in the mindset of Tyreek Hill. What's going to be important to him? It's going to be his money and his potential of success. So do I see him going? And he's not going to want to play in the cold. He got used to the South Beach. He's not going to try to go anywhere. He would play in the cold in Kansas City. So I like the Texas shout. No income tax in Texas. There is another team in Texas that we'll get into it in a little bit when we talk about the draft order and what teams are needing. There's a team in Texas that needs a wide receiver in Dallas. And what better way for Jerry Jones to make some more money than bringing in a name like Tyreek Hill just to play?
Put him as part of the Cowboys zoo that they have going on during the season.
Or hey, do it. Send him to Vegas. He'd be a big Vegas guy. Watch that be some crazy deal with Max Crosby, getting him dealt to the Dolphins.
How many kids did Tyreek Hill have in 2024? Like, you want to put him in Vegas now?
Listen, he already
got to fill the stands with somebody.
I was about to say he's already losing tens of thousands of dollars for child support. He might as well just put him into the gambling just epicenter and just have him lose even more money.
Oof. Yeah. I mean, Micah Parsons is calling for Tyreek to come to Dallas. He wants to see him in Dallas Cowboys colors and in a Dallas Cowboys uniform next year.
A great value, Deion Sanders.
That's a good analogy for that. Yeah. Any last final of the week observations for you, Scott?
Go Bucks. That's it.
That doesn't count. That's not. But the Bucks can't go till Thursday. Oh, this is
where does Kirk Cousins go? Because Penix is looking pretty
good.
Browns.
Browns or Colts.
Now the Browns
or Colts. Listen, Deshaun.
It's not going to be. It's not going to be Browns because of Deshaun's contract. It's going to be so much dead money they cannot afford Kirk because he's some freaking wizard when it comes to getting paid. I can see the Colts paying him. The Browns will not.
We get ours, but no. Like I like the Browns shout simply because of Deshaun Watson's setback with his Achilles injury. I could see them just saying, "Hey, let's just bring him in. You can't do any worse. Just bring him in." They're not going to retain Jameis. Jameis is going to be going on, moving somewhere else. And I like the Indy shout because Anthony Richardson's come out stating like this has been like one of his worst like years, like injury prevention wise. I guess his back's been all fucked up, and he's been quoted on saying that he's been having like crawling around his house just to get around. And it's the same kind of thread we just talked about with the Texans, right? You're in the AFC South. It's not that overly difficult to get out. It's just like the NFC South. So you bring in I hate to say the word proven, but a proven stable quarterback like Kirk Cousins going into there. You have Jonathan Taylor there. You got nice young wide receivers there. You got the a defense that's still solid. Why not? You have Shane Steichen. Why not?
I could see that realistically. While we're talking about quarterbacks in the end of the season, and I'll save most of it for Thursday, a little bit of a I told you so to the public on Sam Darnold. I told you not to trust that motherfucker. He was doing Sam Darnold things last night. JJ McCarthy was just sitting on the sidelines, proving my point, just tag and trade Darnold, but we'll talk about that more on Thursday. Another quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. Quickly, do you all think that was his last game yesterday? He was saving his last touchdown like it was his last one. Do you think this could be the last game? And if not, where is he going to play next year?
Definitely his last game. No speculation on where he's going to play.
Not his last game, and taking a quick shout. What do I know about Aaron Rodgers? What he likes to do? He likes drugs. Let's send him to Seattle. I don't think they're going to retain Geno. I don't think they're going to pay him. I don't think they're going to pay him the 30. I think they're going to. I see them having a vacuum happen in Seattle, needing a quarterback.
I don't see them retaining Geno either. I feel like I don't think they were completely sold on him this season, unless the new offensive coordinator comes in, whoever they hire, and likes it. I know that it did not go with head coach Mike McDonald's desire to run a balanced offense where they're doing short passes on every 3rd and 1. But we'll see what happens here. Interesting. So we're talking
left with Sam Howell and Jaron Hall.
So we're talking about shout out Jaron Hall. Let's go BYU.